Well, good morning. It's Tuesday, June 1st, and we are gathered for our morning devotion. And again, we're using the book Hebrews for Everyone by N.T. Wright. And today's lesson is from chapter 9, verses 1 through 10. The first tabernacle had, of course, its own regulations for worship, and it contained the earthly sanctuary. A double tent was constructed. In the outer one was the lampstand, the table, and the bread of presence. This is called the holy place. After the second curtain came the inner tent, called the Holy of Holies. This contained the golden altar, the Ark of the Covenant, which is covered completely in gold. In the ark were golden urns containing the manna, Aaron's rod that budded at the tablets of the covenant. Above it were the cherubim of glory, which overshadowed the mercy seat. There is much we can say about all this, but now is not the time. With all these things in place, the priests continually go into the first tabernacle in the ordinary course of their duties. But only the high priest goes into the second tabernacle once every year, and he always takes blood, which he offered for himself and for the unintentional sins of the people. The Holy Spirit indicates by this that as long as the original tabernacle is still standing, the way is not yet open into the sanctuary. This is a picture, so to speak, of the present age. During this period, gifts and sacrifices are offered, which have no power to perfect the conscience of those who come to worship. They only deal with food and drinks and various kinds of washings. These are regulations for the order of human life until the appointed time, the moment when everything will be put into proper place. And so I'm going to do this a little different going forward. I'm just going to read his analogy and then just comment on there from there instead of reading the whole thing. And so N.T. Wright uses this analogy. He says, the taxi driver was resigned to things being this way for a long time. Yes, he said, we've just got to put up with it. Boston will be a great city if they ever get it finished. We were struck in what seemed like an impenetrable traffic jam, going from Logan Airport out by the Atlantic Ocean to the apartment we had rented in Cambridge, Massachusetts, just inland from Boston itself. One of the largest construction projects ever was taking place right in our path, designed to create a new road system which would enable traffic to flow smoothly, not only between the airport and the city, but also between other towns to the north and to the south. I realized at that moment, it had never occurred to me before, that the entire duration of such project, in this case several years if not decades, alternative arrangements had to be made to enable the traffic to get through, as well as it could, while the building was in process. When a sculptor is carving a statue, she doesn't have to make arrangements for other people to do things with the same block of wood or stone. But when you redesign a major part of the scenery, ordinary life has to go on. People have to get to work. In addition to the eventual plan, therefore, the great design is in mind of the planner and somehow, no doubt, in a model under a glass case in City Hall. There have to exist all sorts of preparatory and immediate plans. While the work is going on, they will need to build extra temporary roads going this way and that, which they will then demolish when the final project is complete. No doubt this work, too, subdivides into several stages. People like me, living there for just a few months, only ever know the temporary stage. I never saw the final plan, even as a model or a map. And so using N.T. Wright's analogy, he's saying that this tabernacle, which started in the wilderness, the 40 years that they left Egypt and going toward the promised land, had those two shells. It had the outer shell, which was the tabernacle, and then the inner shell, the Holy of Holies. And he's saying that this was a temporary design of God's plan. Even that design was used in the temple. There was the outer sanctuary and then the Holy of Holies as well, but this was all temporary. It was like his analogy of building temporary roads to fulfill a bigger project. And so he uses that to say the laws, the tabernacles, everything that was given to us was a temporary vehicle to get us to our final destination. And of course, the final destination was Jesus. Jesus opened up the Holy of Holies for all people. That was the final building project. The final cog in all of God's plan was to bring us to Jesus. But he's arguing, and he builds this case as it goes along, that the tabernacle, while useful for its time, much like the temporary roads in Boston were useful for its time, would be destroyed for something greater and something that fulfilled the people better. And then, of course, was the main road from in Boston going to wherever, but in spiritual terms, it was in Jesus. Jesus was that road that was built, that was new, that shows us a clear and way path to God. It wasn't temporary, but it was the ultimate design by God. Yes, the tabernacle was good and it fulfilled its purpose. The laws are good and they fulfill a purpose. But it's not the end game that God had in plan. He had in plan the Messiah, his son Jesus, to come and open up the Holy of Holies for all people. The final project was completed in Jesus Christ. Amen.